Imagine arriving at a work for a routine safety test only for it to become the worst nuclear disaster in human history in less than a minute. Assalamualaikum everyone. At 1:23 a.m. on 26 April 1986, a routine safety test at RBMK 1000 reactor number 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant located near Pripyat, Ukraine, then part of the Soviet Union, unexpectedly turned into the worst nuclear accident in history. Within a second, two powerful explosions destroyed the reactor core, releasing enormous amounts of radioactive materials into the atmosphere. The immediate consequences were devastating. 30 people lost their lives, including two plane workers who died during the explosion, and 28 firefighters and emergency responders who later died from acute radiation syndrome after being exposed to extremely high levels of radiation. Following the accident, more than 116,000 residents were evacuated from Pripyat and the surrounding 30-kilometer exclusion zone, while radioactive contamination spread across Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, and many other parts of Europe. The accident resulted of a combination of human error, violations of operating procedures, and critical flaw in RBMK procedures, causing uncontrollable power that led to the explosion. It was later classified as Level 7 on International Nuclear and Radiological Event Scale (INS) as the highest possible rating for a nuclear accident. Although the explosion lasted only a few seconds, their consequences have continued for a decade. The Chernobyl disaster remained as the worst nuclear power plant accident in the history and served as a reminder of the importance of nuclear safety, effective emergency response, and responsible decision-making. In this presentation, we will discuss the causes of the disaster, impact on human health and the environment, and the lesson learned from this tragic event.
I will explain the chemicals involved in this nuclear incident, including their sources and effect on human health and the environment. These chemicals are radioactive substances released mainly during nuclear accidents. They can spread through air, water, and soil and may remain dangerous for a long time. First is iodine 131. It is released from damaged nuclear fuel. It usually collects in the thyroid gland. This increases the risk of thyroid cancer, especially in children. Next is cesium-137. It is a fission product from uranium fuel. It can contaminate soil, water, and food. It also emits radiation that can affect human health and for many years. The third one is strontium-19. It is produced during nuclear fission. It behaves like calcium in the body, so it can accumulate in bones and teeth. It increasing the risk of bone cancer and leukemia. Next is xenon-133. It is a radioactive gas released during explosion. It spreads quickly through the atmosphere and it contributes to wide area radioactive contamination. Next is plutonium-239. It is found in nuclear fuel. It is highly toxic and radioactive. It remains dangerous for thousands of years, making it very hazardous. Lastly, it's the uranium dioxide. It is the main fuel used in nuclear reactors. During an explosion, fuel particles can be released. This leads to local environmental contamination. In conclusion, all these chemicals are radioactive and dangerous. They can affect human health, contaminate the environment, and remain harmful for a long time.
Now, I will explain the chemical reaction that occurred during the Chernobyl accident. First, the main process was an uncontrolled nuclear fusion reaction. In the reactor, uranium-235 absorbed a neutron and spilled into a smaller nuclei, releasing a large amount of energy and more neutrons. This additional neutron continued the chain reaction, causing the reactor temperature increase very rapidly. Next, because of the extreme heat, the coolant water changed into steam. This can be shown by the equation H2O liquid changing into H2O gas. The rapid formation of steam increased the pressure inside the reactor and contributed to the first explosion. Another important reaction involves zirconium, which was used as a part of the fuel cooling. At very high temperatures, zirconium reacts with steam. This reaction produces zirconium dioxide and hydrogen gas. The equation is zirconium plus 2 water molecules produce zirconium dioxide and 2 hydrogen molecules. The hydrogen gas produced could react with oxygen and release energy. This might have been contribute to further explosion and additional damage to the reactor. Finally, the graphite moderator was exposed to the air and burned. In this reaction, carbon reacts with oxygen to form carbon dioxide and release heat. The graphite fire was important because it helped carry radioactive materials into the atmosphere. Overall, this reaction caused extreme heat, high stream pressure, explosion, and fire. The damage to the reactor then allowed radioactive materials to be released.
The next slide is about the SDS of the chemical. We focus on iodine and uranium dioxide. For iodine 131, the chemical name is iodine 131 sodium iodide. Chemical formula Na131. The half-life of iodine is roughly about 8.02 days, and the type of radiation is beta and gamma. For uranium dioxide, chemical name is uranium dioxide. Chemical formula UO2. The appearance of uranium dioxide is black crystalline powder, and the uses of uranium dioxide is used for nuclear fuel for nuclear power reactor. Next is about the hazard and the toxicity of iodine and uranium dioxide. First is health hazard. It increases the risk of thyroid cancer and damage living cell and tissue through ionizing radiation. The second one is physical hazard. It emits ionizing radiation, and the third one is environmental hazard, which is it contaminates soil, water, and vegetation. It can enter the food chain through crops and livestock. So to minimize the exposure of iodine 131, we must take precaution like protective safeguard, contamination control, and continuous monitoring. Meanwhile, for uranium dioxide, the worker should handle the substance within closed area, which is ventilation systems such as local exhaust ventilation (LEV), fume hood, and HEPA filtration ventilation system to minimize the exposure. Next, for acute toxicity, is radiation sickness, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, and for the chronic toxicity is thyroid cancer, leukemia, genetic mutation, reproductive disorder, and its increased lifetime cancer risk. For the regulation slides, it's divided by two regulation, which is for international and Malaysia. For international compliance is governed by regulations such as the International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA) and International Commission on Radiological Protection (ICRP). Other than that, Occupational Safety and Health Administration (OSHA). Due to Chernobyl disaster, the convention was established, which is Convention on Nuclear Notification of a Nuclear Accident 1986, which required to the country to notify another country about the release of radioactive material. Next is Convention on assistance in the case of a nuclear accident 1986, which facilitate international emergency assistance. And the last one is Convention on Nuclear Safety 1994 to ensure that nuclear plants are handled with safety. For Malaysia, the radioactive material is handled by Atomic Energy Licensing Board under Atomic Energy Licensing Act 1984 Act 304.
Next, I'm going to talk about safety and health management failure. First, failure to follow safety procedure. During the safety test, the operator ignored the standard operating procedure and switched off several automatic safety systems. These systems were designed to protect the reactor from dangerous conditions. Without them, the reactor became unstable and exploded, releasing a large amount of radioactive materials into the environment. Second, failure to identify and assess risks. Before the test began, the risks of operating the reactor at low power were not properly evaluated. The operators underestimate how dangerous the reactor could become under these conditions. As a result, the reactor became unstable and eventually lost control, leading to the explosions. Third, poor safety culture. The management focused on completing the reactor test, then on ensuring safety. Workers were expected to follow orders even when they knew the situation was unsafe. This poor safety culture encouraged risky decisions and increased the chance of a serious accident. Fourth, weak emergency preparedness. After the explosion, there was no effective emergency response plan. The evacuation of nearby residents was delayed for about 36 hours. During this time, many workers and residents were exposed to dangerous levels of radiation, increasing the risk of serious health problems. Finally, inadequate training. The reactor's operator did not receive sufficient training on how to handle unusual reactor conditions or emergency. Because they were not fully prepared, they made incorrect decisions and worse the reactor instability and increase the severity of the disaster.
Next, I will explain the impacts of Chernobyl accident on human health. The accident exposed thousands of people to radioactive materials. In the early stage of disaster, 28 emergency workers and firefighters died due to acute radiation syndrome, which was caused by a very high radiation exposure. In the long term, an increase in thyroid cancer cases was reported, especially among individuals who were children during the accidents. Besides physical health effects, many people also experience stress, anxiety, and fear about the possible health consequences of radiation exposure. Besides affecting human health, the accident also had major social impact. This situation caused emotional stress and affected the daily lives of many people for years. The Chernobyl accident also caused serious environmental contamination. Large amounts of radioactive materials were released into the atmosphere and spread across different regions. As a result, forests, rivers, lakes, and agricultural land became contaminated. One of the major concerns was cesium-137, a radioactive substance that can remain in the environment for many years, still restricted because of radioactive contamination. The disaster also affected agriculture and the economy. Radioactive materials entered the food chain through crops, vegetables, and meat. Because of this, strict food monitoring programs had to be introduced to protect public health. In addition, the cleanup process, relocation programs, and long-term environmental monitoring required a huge amount of money. Therefore, the accident created a significant economic burden for the affected countries. Several important lessons can be learned from Chernobyl disaster. First, safety should always be the highest priority in any industrial operation. Safety systems and procedures must never be ignored. Second, workers should receive proper training to ensure they can respond correctly during emergencies. Third, effective emergency preparedness is very important to reduce the impact of accidents. Finally, communication and international cooperation are essential because nuclear accidents can affect not only one country but also neighboring countries. In conclusion, the Chernobyl accident was caused by a combination of reactor design flaws, human error, and failures in safety management. These factors led to one of the worst nuclear accidents in history. As discussed by my group members, the accident involved dangerous radioactive materials and caused serious impacts on human health, the environment, society, and the economy. Most importantly, Chernobyl taught us that safety should never be compromised. Proper training, strict safety procedures, effective emergency response, and international cooperation are essential to prevent similar accidents in the future. That's all for me. Thank you.